Hello everyone, and welcome.
If you should awaken, I will be there when you wake from your lovely
Welcome back. I hope everybody's doing well in 2024. We're just getting started. This is the second week of the new year, and there's a lot going on, especially today. You have all the things in politics going on. You have your Iowa caucus and these things, and this is supposed to be or will be a very important political race. I'm trying to avoid politics as much as I can, but this one is so important. I believe there's a few things that I want to interject. As a spiritualist, someone whose spirit talks to him, I've had this discussion with my spirit, and I've been basically persuaded to explain how this whole system works. When I'm talking about a system, what I'm talking about is how the universe works from a creator's standpoint. They say we live in a three-dimensional universe, the fourth dimension being the dimension of time. The reason they call it three dimensions is because you have a dimension of vertices, up and down like this. And then you have one that goes like this, horizon, that's 2. Then you have one that has depth, that's number 3. The truth of the matter is, we can have as many dimensions as we want to. When you consider that a dimension is simply a visual perspective, like I said, depth, height, width. All you need to do to add another dimension is gain the ability to see not only height, width, depth, but to see it from the opposite side, which is simple. All that takes is a mirror. If you put a mirror behind and you can see from the back, you're actually adding another dimension. Say if you put a mirror on top, well, you're seeing another dimension. You ever seen those carnival situations where you go into the room of mirrors and there's mirrors everywhere and you don't know which one is real? Well, that's actually seeing yourself in a multitude of dimensions. The fabric of the universe is also a multi-dimensional fabric, which means it's not flat. It also has a thickness. It has every angle. So what you are actually seeing is each cross section has a number. Now with these numerics, it gives the source, the creator, the ability to recognize each matrices. What I'm trying to say is that the creator knows where every cross section in this fabric is, because that's what it would take for a creator to know exactly where all molecular structures are. Once you understand that the creator knows where, how else would a creator know where every single molecule in the universe is? They found out that by using binary codes, ones and zeros, they are able to basically note where everything is with ones and zeros, ones and zeros. And so with these numerics, they can arrange those ones and those zeros in any sequence they want to, with each one of them having a different meaning. Meaning, if you have a 1 and a 1, that's going to mean something. If you have a 1 and a 0, a computer can map out where every single thing is and code it and log it and know exactly where everything is at, if we're talking about baseline computers, the kind that we use here. They've come a long way. We're about to venture into quantum computing. A quantum computer is a computer that, and a modern computer can break space down to what is considered called a Planck length. A Planck length is the smallest thing that can be measured, except for a molecule. A molecule is even smaller than a Planck length. Now, a quantum computer has the ability to place information on a molecule. So this is where we're going now. So if we can put information onto a molecule, calling that a quantum computer, that means instead of you having a very small computer, say the size of this, a new computer might be the size of a pinhead. The limits are endless. What I want you to understand that science has never invented anything that was not already invented by the creator. Science is merely trying to catch up with things that the creator has already created. And they will never catch all the way up because creation is always creating new things anyway. So you see, when computers came out, they had to find a way to communicate across the room using these binary numbers. And they found out how to do it, but they also found out that these numbers could be hacked. They could be stolen. Someone could find out. So what they did was they were able to put within the computer codes, sort of look at it like a confusing mechanism that would mix them up a bit, so that if a certain message was being sent, it would be mixed up on the way. But at the other end, they had another code that would straighten it out. So just to help the information get from one point to another point successfully, because they know people could steal it. So this is what they wrote into the fabric of computers. Not only just a way to pass a message from A to B, but a way to pass message from A to B, mix it up, and on the other end, they decode it and translate it. So basically, in order for somebody to steal it, they'd have to have the translation codes, and that's a little harder to gather because these things could be changed randomly by the second. Just basically changing the numbers around to mix it up. So anyway, the reason I'm doing all this is because if a scientist was explaining this to you, it would be very confusing because scientists talk like lawyers, and when they start to speak, they have ways of describing things that kind of make your eyes kind of you're like, what? They know what they're talking about. The reason I'm here is because I'm not a scientist, and so from a spiritual standpoint, what we have is a layman that knows very little about science who's trying to explain it to people who may not understand science as well. The reason I'm saying all this is because just like in computer programming, they send a message mix it up. It can be mixed and then decoded at the end. This is what human beings found out, how to create this computer system. Well, like I said before, nothing that science or technology can do that wasn't already done by the Creator. What we found out is that in the fabric of the universe are those same codes. There is a code that passes information through the fabric of the universe. Why? Because the Creator of the universe has to know where every single molecule is at all times. And we're talking about molecules. Guess what? There are things that are smaller than molecules. You know, things that we know that are there by our imagination and our insight, but because we know how these things go, but there are things that are small. So basically, he's got to know where all these things, he's got to know where each particle is. He does know. How do you keep that? How do you keep up with that? A computer system. The Creator of the universe mind is a computer. Is a computer system. We know that because we've created computers, and like I said, anything we can create has already been done. And we found the codes. We found those codes that operate the fabric of the universe. My point is this. We also found error correcting codes within the fabric of the universe. So however scrambled information or life may become, there are error correcting codes that will line everything back up to where it's supposed to be. Human beings cannot fail, is what I'm trying to say. What human beings can do is put themselves through all kinds of changes so they can learn, but there are always at the end these error correcting codes. Yeah, we might blow ourselves up, but it's going to reboot. It will actually reboot just like a computer. Think of it like when everything comes to an end, the whole thing just shuts down and it looks like everything's dead, and all of a sudden a light comes on. You know, and next thing you know, you hear the computer click, 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 click. That's how the universe works. Now, this is how the Creator source runs his operation. If you compare that, and also we're talking about a Creator that's not restricted to our fourth dimension of time, because he's comes from a place before time, so past, present, and future is the same thing, which is another difficult concept, but it's like seeing the beginning of a play and the end of the play at the same time and everything in between. He knows that. So basically, the purpose of all of this is the Creator is so much of a magnificent, inconceivable thing that basically he wanted to see how everything feels from the perspective of something that has free will. Free will can do a whole lot of weird stuff and random stuff that doesn't make any sense. Well, you know, the Creator's like, I cannot be that weird. I cannot be that confusing. The best way for me to do it is to put a little bit of me in each molecule and let the molecules go out, and I can experience a multitude of different kinds of existence, good and bad, you know, just so he can see what it feels like. So there's a piece of the Creator in every molecule, which means there is, and the Creator is it's a benevolent situation. When you start hearing the Bible and all this, when it's talking about a destructive God, well, we're talking about gods here. We're not talking about the Creator of the universe. Whenever you hear me talk, we have to keep making that distinction between the Creator of the universe and the biblical gods, who were actual biological beings. They weren't what you think. They created mankind in their own image. It is so frustrating to listen to pastors talk about God when they're not even talking about the creator of the universe. You can talk about God all you want to. And because these gods that they're speaking of did in fact create mankind, but they did not create the universe. The universal, there are clues everywhere. For instance, like I've said before, if you've heard me, just to describe the situation, the story of the Garden of Eden tells you that the God Yahweh in the Garden of Eden was not omnipotent because he had to come and look for Adam and Eve. The creator of the universe is a molecular structure of a whole system that part of him is in Adam and Eve already, and so he wouldn't have to go looking for them because part of him is in it. And he's omnipotent, not only omnipotent, but past, present, and future. He already knows what they're going to do and why they're going to do it and everything. He knew that human beings were going to make this story so weird and crazy that it would end up two brand new beings and a talking snake. He also knew that how human beings would react to this story and religions would be started. Now, this is what my book is all about. This is what my whole spirituality sort of ministry is all about. Get enlightened people to understand that this whole confusion thing, this whole all the little silly things you see in the Bible, like talking snakes and God telling Abraham to kill his own son just to see what he would do. It's so frustrating. An omnipotent God needs to see what Abraham's going to do. An omnipotent God is already going to know what Abraham's going to do. And he can do things that make Abraham to do whatever he wants him to do, if that's the kind of game he wants to play. But that doesn't make any sense for an omnipotent being. So basically, anytime you see something that is weird, that doesn't make any sense, it probably is not of the Creator, because the Creator is incapable of such foolishness. I'm going to test Abraham. Well, that's evidence that this is not an omnipotent being. He's not ubiquitous. He can't be, because if he's got to wait to see what Abraham's going to do. He doesn't have to strike down Sodom and Gomorrah, because the creator of the universe already knows what Sodom and Gomorrah is going to do, because he's the one that gave them the free will to do the madness that was going on at the same time. It's really not their fault. He's the one that gave them he's the one that wanted to, the creator is the one that wanted to see what it was like to go through things that he couldn't even imagine. You know, he couldn't, it's hard to imagine what beings with free will are going to do with their free will and how they're going to be influenced. So basically, he just decided to not just see it, but he found a way to be it. Now, I started out talking about this election coming up. I'm not going to tell you exactly who's going to win, although I know that I could. Let me just say this. Error correcting codes, no matter how bad things seem to be or how bad they're going to get, they will correct itself. These codes are written into the fabric of the universe, and they cannot be changed. I mean, but things can get bad, but just rest assured, the good will always exceed the bad. However, you cannot have good without an example of bad. There would be no such thing as good if there wasn't any bad, just like there would be no such thing as hot if there wasn't anything as cold. Basically, hot, cold simply means they're just temperatures. Good, bad simply means they're just behaviors. Behaviors are easily solvable with the codes that are written into the fabric of the universe. Now, let me introduce today's chapter, because this is where Jesus is in the mystery schools of Egypt, day one. We're past day one. He's in the course teaching of cause and effect. Now, we know that Jesus was sent to the mystery schools by Hermes. Hermes, the most important person in the book. Hermes, who was there for the creation of mankind. Hermes, who's the true father of Isis, who is the first Homo sapiens sapien. Hermes is who started the the mystery schools in Egypt, in his city that was named after him, Hermopolis. So anyway, at this school, Hermes is at now in day 2, learning the principles of cause and effect. And we'll be right back.
Chapter 57, Cause and Effect.
For 3 weeks Jesus had been introduced to new things. Finally he felt as if he knew a little something about the next subject. This was what he called the reap what you sow class, and he from his mother was very familiar with this. The priest must have been aware of Jesus' knowledge because he asked Jesus.
Jesus, can you lead the class on this subject?
He said,
It will help you with your public speaking skills.
and Jesus agreed.
Today,
Said Jesus,
we should consider the principle of cause and effect. Right?
Go on.
This principle can be interpreted in many ways. One of the many ways is, so as you reap, so shall you sow.
That's pretty good.
Very good. Carry on.
Jesus continued.
If you should plant a seedling from the tree of apples, you should not grow an orange, and so on. This principle also pertains to behaviors. If you treat persons with bad behavior, you will receive bad behaviors. And kindness and so forth, right?
Said Jesus. Said the priest.
Now let me continue from here. Oh yeah, very good, Yahshua.
Said the priest.
Now, what you may not know is that your spirit has a divine purpose that may not be consistent with the purpose in your mind. It is here where you may find conflicting impulses that may be detrimental to your life's purpose. If your spirit has laid out a plan for you and you do not follow, you may be forever in search of your way. Your mind will choose one and your spirit another. These two must be in sync with one another. If the two are not in sync, the body will be out of sync as well because of the lack of consistency of purpose. In order to resolve the dilemma, one must synchronize the two by divine order. Divine order is achieved by addressing the matter with one's own spirit and allowing the divine spirit to lead the way. Once the spirit is synchronized, it will begin to alter the universal purpose, bringing together the complex parts and making them whole. This principle can be broken down into principles that are far too advanced for you students.
I encourage you to further your studies to make these principles clear, or you may just live and you will all come to know that you will reap just what you sow.
This law is universal and cannot be changed.
Now the principle of gender.
This principle dictates that everything in nature must have a sexual counterpart to exist.
A thing could never be created without this.
Even the soil under your feet must have mud when it is wet, and with moisture, sand can be quickened just as a male can be quickened by a female. Without gender, the plants would be unmotivated to circle the sun, and the moon would fall from the sky because of the lack thereof of the constant gravitational pull between the two.
Perhaps this will be all for today.
It is Friday and it will be a good time to leave early that you may return home and help your parents with duties or something.
Jesus had yet another question for the priest.
Must we always consider a spouse when we grow up? I was told that in Egypt, men had many wives.
That all depends on the culture of the people.
Said the priest.
For example, in some regions of the continent of Africa, there are many tribes. So in order to keep the peace between the tribes, a king of each tribe would marry a daughter of another tribe. So if there were 12 tribes, the king would have 12 wives, one from each. This would be in order to keep the peace between the tribes. One would not war against their own father-in-law. This would cause grave consequences. However, never were these unions out of greed. And believe me, in these circumstances, each king would have a primary wife. You need only try to have relations with one or the other and see what would happen to you.
That primary wife's war would be with you if you try it.
That will be all for today.
Said the pyramid priest.
Oh, and by the way, we have a great surprise coming for you in one of the next few classes. I cannot tell you what it is. Well, maybe I can.
The priest then said that he heard that Master Hermes has awakened from his slumber and is eager to teach again as soon as it is possible.
Great news.
And we all just settle down, please.
Subscribe and push the like button.
Hope you enjoyed that. See, yeah, Jesus is going to have a good time. He's got his tutor Cleopatra, but not that Cleopatra. All this stuff I was saying about the computer codes of the universe and how the creator, the source, knows everything, well, that tells you, that lets you know that Lucifer's battle was never with the creator of the universe, simply because that's not something you can battle against. The ubiquitous creator would already know when he created Lucifer's behind what he was going to do, and all he has to do is push a button and reset Lucifer if he was getting that much out of hand. Lucifer knows that there's no way for even Lucifer to conceive the creator of the universe. It's just too powerful a thing. He's an archangel, which basically they were created first. They were created before the stars and the planets. They were created, of course, before any kind of anything other than the ethereal realm. They were created first. So they have an advantage because they can see past, present, and future as well. But Lucifer still will never have even the mindset, impetus kind of notion to fight against the creator of the universe. How come religion has not understood this? The reason religion has not understood this because religion doesn't understand what ubiquitous creator is. If religion understood what a ubiquitous creator was, they would know that Satan could never battle the creator of the universe. He could be deleted. So, Lucifer's battle was with the biblical gods who are not the creator of the universe. They are not omnipotent. They have to go, but they did create mankind, which they weren't supposed to do, which basically made them confess or say that they are the God of mankind. Well, this is where the whole confusion happens. If you can't make a distinction between the biblical gods who created mankind in their own image, that's also something that tells you their own image means their own likeness. So they were like us. They bled like us. They breathed. They ate meat like us. So that tells you too. The Bible will tell you who they are. It says it in the beginning of Genesis, the book of Genesis. And we can go all the way back to the Hebrew Bible, really, because the original Hebrew Bible didn't even start off in the beginning. The real translation of the Hebrew Bible said, in the beginning of this story. So basically, they knew that they were just coming up with a scenario, with some interpretation, basically coming from their own philosophers. Really, they really weren't. They weren't connected spiritually to where they had something that could tell them exactly what's going on. Hell, Galileo hadn't even discovered his concept of the universe. The church was against it because the church thought the everything revolved around Earth. So they didn't know a whole lot back then, and they understood that this is just a version of something that we think is going on. So the book of Genesis actually started off in the beginning of this story. Somebody convinced Christians to think that in the beginning God did what this book says, and God is the one that wrote everything in the Bible. The creator of the fabric of the universe doesn't write. He lets us write. Because if he did, his words that he wrote would be set in a pattern that if somebody tried to change and manipulate, it would have error correcting codes. Thank you for coming. Everybody, please like and subscribe. And I love everybody, and Happy New Year. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Subscribe and push the like button.